Hello, you're watching movie Snapshot scenes, and this is the summary of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The war had begun. Lord Voldemort was growing stronger, and the wizarding world was no longer safe. With Dumbledore gone, Harry Potter knew that he, Ron, and Hermione had to find and destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes before it was too late. At Malfoy Manor, Voldemort gathered his most loyal Death Eaters to discuss their next move. He needed a new wand, one that could defeat Harry's. But before anything else, he demonstrated his power, killing Charity Burbage, the Hogwarts Muggle Studies professor, as a terrified Draco Malfoy watched in silence. Meanwhile, at Privet Drive, Harry prepared to leave his childhood home forever. The Dursleys fled for safety, leaving Harry behind. Soon, the Order of the Phoenix arrived, including Mad-Eye Moody, Lupin, Tonks, and the Weasleys. Their plan was dangerous: to use Polyjuice Potion to create 6 identical Harry Potters and confuse the Death Eaters. As they took flight, disaster struck. Voldemort and his Death Eaters ambushed them in the sky. Spells and curses exploded around them as Hedwig, Harry's loyal owl, was killed trying to protect him. George Weasley was injured, losing an ear. Worse still, Mad-Eye Moody was murdered. Despite the losses, Harry made it safely to the Burrow, where the Weasleys, Hermione, and Fleur Delacour were preparing for Bill and Fleur's wedding. Though it was a moment of joy, darkness loomed over them all. On the day of the wedding, Harry met Elphias Doge and Aunt Muriel, who whispered shocking rumors about Dumbledore's past. Had Dumbledore been hiding secrets from him all along? Harry felt uneasy, but before he could learn more, terror struck. Death Eaters crashed the wedding. A Patronus message from Kingsley Shacklebolt warned them. The Ministry has fallen. The Minister of Magic is dead. They are coming. Panic erupted as Death Eaters attacked. Spells flashed through the air as guests screamed and fled. Thinking fast, Harry, Ron, and Hermione disapparated, escaping just in time. They landed in the middle of London, breathless and shaken. The war was no longer coming. It was here, and they were completely on their own. Harry, Ron, and Hermione found themselves in the middle of London, surrounded by Muggles, their hearts still pounding from the attack. They had escaped the Death Eaters at the wedding, but they had no safe place to go. Without hesitation, Hermione led them to a small cafe where they tried to regroup. But danger was never far. Within moments, 2 Death Eaters entered the cafe, recognizing them immediately. A fierce duel broke out, spells flying across the room. Harry and Ron managed to stun the Death Eaters, and Hermione quickly erased their memories, ensuring they wouldn't remember anything. Realizing that nowhere was safe, they decided to hide in Grimmauld Place, the former home of Sirius Black. Inside, they discovered that Kreacher, the old house elf, was still there. Though resentful, Kreacher had no choice but to obey Harry, his new master. As they searched the house, they uncovered an important clue. Regulus Black, Sirius's brother, had once stolen Slytherin's locket, which was one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, but the locket was missing. Kreacher revealed that Mundungus Fletcher had stolen it and sold it to Dolores Umbridge, who now worked for the Ministry of Magic. There was only one option. They had to break into the Ministry and steal it back. The next morning, using Polyjuice Potion, Harry, Ron, and Hermione transformed into Ministry workers and infiltrated the building. The atmosphere was dark and oppressive, filled with anti-Muggle propaganda as Voldemort's influence spread. They navigated the Ministry, searching for Umbridge. When they found her, she was wearing the Horcrux around her neck. Before they could take it, Harry lost control, furiously stunning Umbridge and revealing himself. Panic broke out. Ron and Hermione freed Muggle-born prisoners, while Harry grabbed the locket. Their disguises faded as alarms rang through the Ministry. With Death Eaters closing in, they barely managed to escape, apparating in a panic. They landed in a remote forest, shaken and exhausted. But their mission was far from over. They had a Horcrux. Now, they had to find a way to destroy it. The cold, empty forest became Harry, Ron, and Hermione's new home. They moved from place to place, never staying too long, afraid that Death Eaters might find them. The Horcrux locket, now in their possession, pulsed with dark energy, affecting their emotions. They quickly discovered the problem. They had no way to destroy it. Unlike Tom Riddle's diary, which Harry had destroyed with a basilisk fang, or Marvolo Gaunt's ring, which Dumbledore had destroyed with the sword of Gryffindor, they had no weapon capable of breaking the Horcrux. As weeks passed, tension grew. Wearing the locket for too long made them irritable, paranoid, and aggressive. Harry and Hermione did their best to stay focused, but Ron struggled the most. He was tired, frustrated, and overwhelmed by fear for his family, who were in constant danger. The locket amplified his insecurities, making him believe that Hermione cared more about Harry than him. One night, while discussing their next move, Harry accidentally said Voldemort's name, which had been cursed to track anyone who spoke it. Immediately, Snatchers appeared, and the trio barely escaped, apparating to another forest. But Ron, weakened by the Horcrux's influence and desperate for answers, lost his temper. "We have no plan. We have nothing," he shouted. "Maybe you don't care because you don't have a family to worry about, Harry." Harry was stunned. Hermione begged Ron to stay, but the damage was done. Ron removed the locket, turned, and walked away, leaving Harry and Hermione heartbroken and alone. Days passed. The weight of Ron's absence hung over them, but they had to keep moving. One night, Harry and Hermione traveled to Godric's Hollow, hoping to find answers about Dumbledore and the Sword of Gryffindor. The village was silent, covered in snow. They found the grave of Harry's parents, a painful reminder of everything Harry had lost. Soon, they met Bathilda Bagshot, an old historian who seemed to recognize them. She silently led them into her dark, musty home. But as Hermione explored, Harry followed Bathilda upstairs. Suddenly, her body twisted and collapsed. She had been dead all along. From the corpse emerged Nagini, Voldemort's massive snake. Before Harry could react, the snake lunged at him, striking with deadly force. Harry barely had time to react. As Nagini lunged at him, he stumbled back, knocking over furniture in the cramped room. The snake struck again, but Hermione arrived just in time, blasting it away with a powerful spell. They ran. Nagini slithered after them, hissing furiously. But before it could attack again, Hermione grabbed Harry and disapparated, barely escaping. They landed in a freezing forest, out of breath and terrified. But something was wrong. Harry's wand had snapped in the battle. He held the broken pieces in his hands, his heart sinking. Without his wand, he was more vulnerable than ever. Despite the loss, they pressed on. Days passed, and Harry kept seeing visions of Voldemort in his mind. Voldemort was searching for something powerful. Each vision showed him torturing people, demanding to know where the Elder Wand was. One night, as they sat in silence, Hermione remembered something: the Sword of Gryffindor. It could destroy Horcruxes, but where was it? The only clue was Dumbledore's will, which had left Harry the golden snitch. Inside, it contained a cryptic message: "I open at the close." As they searched for answers, Harry went on watch duty one night and noticed something. A silvery light reflected in the frozen river nearby. Curious, he stepped closer and realized it was the Sword of Gryffindor, lying beneath the ice. Without thinking, Harry stripped down and jumped in. The moment he touched the sword, however, the Horcrux locket around his neck tightened like a noose, dragging him under the water. It was trying to kill him. Just as Harry's vision blurred, strong hands grabbed him and pulled him out. Ron had returned. Coughing and shivering, Harry stared at Ron in disbelief, but there was no time for questions. The locket was still intact. With a deep breath, Ron raised the sword. The Horcrux sensed his fear, whispering cruel visions to him. Images of Harry and Hermione together, mocking him, telling him he wasn't needed. But Ron, filled with rage and determination, brought the sword down, shattering the locket into pieces. The first Horcrux was destroyed, and Ron was finally home. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat in the cold forest, staring at the broken pieces of the Horcrux. It was finally destroyed, but their journey was far from over. As they caught their breath, Ron explained how he had found them. After leaving, he regretted it immediately. But when he tried to return, he couldn't find them. The protective enchantments Hermione had cast were too strong. Then, Dumbledore's Deluminator had guided him back, leading him to Harry just in time. With Ron back, their hope felt renewed. But they still had no idea where the other Horcruxes were. That was when Hermione remembered Xenophilius Lovegood, Luna's father. He had been wearing a strange symbol at Bill and Fleur's wedding. The same one found in The Tales of Beedle the Bard, the book Dumbledore had left for Hermione. Determined to find answers, they travelled to the Lovegood house. Xenophilius welcomed them, but something seemed off. He was nervous, jittery. When they asked about the symbol, he explained that it was the mark of the Deathly Hallows. The Deathly Hallows were 3 legendary objects: the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in existence; the Resurrection Stone, which could bring back the dead; the Invisibility Cloak, which granted true invisibility. Together, these objects made the owner the Master of Death. As Xenophilius spoke, Harry realized something shocking. He already possessed one of the Hallows, his father's invisibility cloak. And from his visions, he now knew Voldemort was searching for the Elder Wand. But before they could ask more, Death Eaters arrived. Xenophilius had betrayed them in an attempt to save Luna, who had been taken by the Ministry. The trio barely escaped as the house exploded in chaos. Shaken, they fled into the wilderness once more. But now Harry's mind was consumed by the Elder Wand. If Voldemort got to it first, he would be unstoppable, and the only person who knew its whereabouts was already dead. As Harry, Ron, and Hermione moved through the wilderness, Harry's thoughts were consumed by the Elder Wand. He knew Voldemort was searching for it, and from his visions, he suspected it had once belonged to Dumbledore. If Voldemort got it, he would become unstoppable. But before they could come up with a plan, disaster struck. One evening, as they camped in the woods, Hermione accidentally spoke Voldemort's name, triggering the taboo curse that allowed Snatchers to track them. Within seconds, a group of dark wizards surrounded them. They tried to escape, but it was too late. The Snatchers dragged them to Malfoy Manor, where they were thrown into a dungeon. Above them, Bellatrix Lestrange interrogated Hermione, demanding to know where they had gotten the Sword of Gryffindor. She was terrified. The sword should have been locked in Bellatrix's vault at Gringotts. If the trio had stolen it, her entire vault could have been compromised. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Harry and Ron heard a familiar voice. Luna Lovegood. She had been imprisoned there, along with Ollivander, the Wandmaker. But there was no time to talk. Dobby the house elf appeared, sent by Aberforth Dumbledore to rescue them. Upstairs, Hermione screamed in pain as Bellatrix tortured her with the Cruciatus curse. Enraged, Ron and Harry broke out just as Dobby returned. They rushed into the room, disarming Draco Malfoy and the others. In the chaos, Harry snatched Draco's wand, a small but crucial act. As they prepared to escape, Bellatrix grabbed a knife and threw it just as Dobby apparated them away. They landed on a quiet beach, finally free, but the relief was short-lived. Dobby collapsed, Bellatrix's knife buried deep in his chest. Harry held the small elf in his arms as Dobby looked up at him with his large, bright eyes. With his final breath, he whispered, "Such a beautiful place to be with friends." Then he was gone. Heartbroken, Harry dug a grave for Dobby with his own hands, refusing to use magic. As the sun rose, he made a decision. No more distractions. He didn't care about the Elder Wand anymore. Only thing that mattered now was destroying Voldemort's Horcruxes once and for all.